So if you just kind of happen to stumble upon this, we're going to talk about nutrition for probably 30 minutes, and then we're going to kind of get moving, do a little workout. It'll be 20 minutes, okay? I'll be with your partner afterwards. I just basically want to open this up and see if anybody has questions about nutrition. I'll do that at the end. But basically what I want to start with are just diets that people have either heard of or you have implemented on your own, okay? Just feel free to shout those out, and I'm going to kind of write them on the whiteboard.
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean.
Carnivore. Keto. Some.
Mediterranean, keto,
Carnivore.
yeah.
Paleo. You know what I meant. Yeah.
Anything else?
Atkins.
Anything else? Okay. Does anyone know all those have in common?
Protein.
What?
Protein.
Protein? Yep. Basically around protein. It's also some sort of low carbohydrate diet. Has anybody had success with these types of diets? Lost weight, gain muscle. Yeah. It's not a coincidence. Restricting carbohydrate intake messes with your hormones. Okay, so if you eat too many carbohydrates, your hormones get out of whack. That's when we start falling into the chronic disease bucket, which I'll get into. Once you start restricting carbohydrate or limiting the intake and switching to more quality foods, whole foods, problems start to disappear. Lessen, reverse. Okay? So there's basically two models that I'm going to kind of cover today. There's a couple other ones. But you have a calories in, calories out model, and then carbohydrate insulin model. Calories in, calories out, that's basically centered around what's the total calories that I'm eating in a day. It doesn't necessarily concentrate on where those calories are coming from. And it's centered around macronutrients. Okay? So the macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrate. In that model, you have protein, which is going to be 4 calories per gram of protein. You have fat, which is going to be 9 calories per gram of fat. And then you have carbohydrate, which is going to be 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. Okay? The reason that I think that this is not the most accurate representation of what actually goes on in your body is because when they're doing that, they're taking a gram, which is a weight, putting it into a closed system, basically like a pressure cooker, and then measuring the heat that comes off of those 3 types of foods. So it's always going to be the same thing, right? Closed system. When you eat a piece of food, do you think that's always going to do the same thing? If I'm eating it, or if Mikkel's eating it, or Aiden's eating it, or Bob's eating it? Do you think my body's going to respond exactly the same way their body's responding to it? Absolutely not. So if you're only taking into consideration the calories that you're consuming and the foods that are equaling that, you're missing most of the picture there, in my opinion. Your body's an open system, so like I said, it's not always going to do the same things depending on who's eating the food. The carbohydrate insulin model is more about balancing your hormones. And I think this is the more accurate representation of what actually occurs. And I think that we can replicate the data from that model a lot better. So I've worked with probably over 100 people on nutrition in the past 5 years. For probably 3.5 years, I was coaching more on the lines of calories in, calories out. It doesn't really matter what you eat. You should probably eat whole foods, but you can still eat junk food too, as long as you fit it into your calories and you're in a calorie deficit. Well, if you're eating primarily carbohydrates, even if you're in a calorie deficit, if your insulin levels are elevated, you're going to be shoving fat into cells that you don't really want that to be happening. Okay? When you start trying to balance the hormones through the food that you're eating, and you're really taking into consideration how many carbohydrates am I eating, that's when you stop that storage component. When insulin's high, that's when energy starts getting stored. You bring the insulin level down, your glucose levels come down, which is basically sugar or carbohydrate. I'm going to use those words interchangeably, so I apologize for that. Everything starts kind of getting back into balance. Okay? So in this model, we're going to talk about insulin signaling, which are these three things. Okay? And you can kind of equate that back to protein, carbs, and fats. But protein, once it enters your body doesn't know what protein is. It knows what amino acid is. That's what protein gets broken down to in your body. Okay? It doesn't know what fat is. It recognizes fatty acids. It has no idea what a carbohydrate is. It knows that as glucose. And through my own experimenting over the past year, and some of my previous clients that I had reached out to and asked them, hey, will you test this for me? If you are one of those people, raise your hand if you don't mind. Are there any of them here? Apparently not. I don't see it. We've seen better results in this model. I saw inflammation go away. I saw stomach fat disappear in my own body. My weight dropped, even though I didn't really want it to. It's just because I wasn't consuming as much carbohydrate as I was in the past. My workouts got better. I felt better. All those things. Any stomach problems that I had kind of went away because I wasn't trying to poison myself by eating excess sugar. Okay? So I have a little diagram over here, and I'm going to try to keep this surface level. I was told last night that I need to dumb it down a lot, so I'm going to try to do that. In this model, basically what happens is when you're eating food, glucose levels will spike depending on what you're eating. So distinct carbohydrates here, breads, pastas, fruit, vegetables. And again, everybody's going to respond to this a little bit differently, but this is just what I saw when I was measuring my glucose levels with the continuous glucose monitor. I know you've worn one in the past, so you could probably say the same thing. Mm-hmm. You're going to see different things happening to your body when you're doing that. But your pancreas is trying to balance two hormones, insulin and glucagon. And it's basically on a pendulum going like this at all times. Depending on what you're eating, what you do after you eat, how often you're moving. Okay, so that's going to kind of dictate what's going on. The two fuel sources that those things are trying to balance out and switch back between are fatty acids and glucose. So when you're eating a bunch of carbohydrates, insulin's going to start to rise and try to do its job to get the glucose out of your bloodstream and shove it into the cell so you don't die. Okay? When you have insulin levels dropping, glucagon levels are going to rise. You're going to be primarily burning fatty acids. When your body's in that state, there's no real storage component, or it's not trying to store energy as fast as it can. You're basically going to burn that off as you're reducing carbohydrate intake, getting your protein, continuing to eat whole foods, exercising, you can kind of toggle back and forth between those fuel sources. And you're going to do that throughout the day, regardless of what you're eating, to some extent. Okay. I was going to go into what cells produce what, but I don't think that's going to be appropriate. But basically what you need to know there is, if you're going to eat what we've been preaching for the past 5 years, diet of meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar, you're going to set yourself up for this off the bat because you're primarily eating whole foods. It's when you get into the foods that are advertised and marketed heavily. You're watching TV. What do you see on there? What do you see on Instagram when you're scrolling? What do you see when you drove here? Advertisements for different foods, restaurants. They're selling you a product. They're not trying to get you healthy, right? I'm giving you the education on how to do that for free. You just have to be aware of what you're doing. You see the ad on TV, oh, that looks good. They're trying to trigger a response to a habit that you've developed. I need to go to the cupboard and grab those Doritos because I just saw that commercial and they sound good now, right? So you have to be aware of that. It's all marketing around their product to generate more revenue. So, I know some of you, or most of you have seen this in the past, but Greg Glassman did this 5 Buckets of Death lecture when he was at CrossFit, and he's done it since he's been starting his Netflix endeavor. He's basically grouped any way you can die into 5 buckets. Okay, you have a chronic disease bucket, you have microbic, you have genetic, kinetic, and toxic. So I'll cover these 4 first. Microbic, that's bugs. Like COVID, that was a microbic. Flu, genetic, somebody name a genetic disease.
Heart disease.
What?
Heart disease.
That's in the
That's chronic. Cancer?
Type 1 diabetes.
Cancer is a chronic disease. Type 1 diabetes, I'll put that there. Kinetic, that's a car accident, fire. Toxic, Charlie Manson had to drink the Kool-Aid and it had cyanide in it. That's toxic. Chronic disease bucket. Anybody, just start yelling them out and I'll put them up there.
Congestive
Type 2.
heart failure.
Type 2 diabetes, heart failure. Asthma, Alzheimer's disease. I'll say mental illness. Kidney disease. Where's Lexus? Have I forgot anything? Did I forget anything in the chronic disease bucket? Heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, heart failure, asthma, Alzheimer's,
No pressure, Max.
mental illness. Well, I'm just asking that I forget any major kidney disease. So those all are a result from metabolic dysfunction. You eat too many carbohydrates, you eat too much sugar. You're going to be at an increased risk for this stuff, right? As you start to change what you're eating, paying attention to prioritizing my protein, eating adequate fat, and minimizing carbohydrate intake, your risk for these diseases dramatically decrease, and most, if not all of them, can be reversed to some extent. And there's data backing all this up. If you go to CrossFit's website, if you go to Netflix, Broken Science website, you can see the reversal of this. You go to our YouTube page. You can see people started in one state and they're gradually moving away from sickness towards fitness, which if you've been coming here for a while, you've seen those lectures that Lexus has done. So this is the mess that we've got ourselves into, because this line right here is the willful divide. You have lifestyle choices that get you into or out of this bucket. What you're putting in your mouth and how often you're moving. It's that simple. It's hard as shit to do. Those of you that are members here, you show up 3 to 6 days a week. Some of you 7, Lisa. You take a rest day. But you're moving your body. You have an exercise routine. Is it expensive to come here? Yes. Are you getting value out of that? I think you're getting more value than what you're paying in your membership fee. And we're trying to do that. We're trying to show you, hey, we're going to show you the way to get healthy. You're investing into your health now, or you're going to pay for it later on in the nursing home. Okay? It's that simple. It's an investment. Yes, it's expensive. Is it cheaper than $10,000 a month to sit in a nursing home and have somebody wipe your butt? Absolutely. The mess that we're in, the latest data that I saw is the United States spends about $5.3 trillion, they collect around $5.3 trillion in tax revenue per year. Okay? That's kind of hard to wrap your head around, right? 48% goes towards treating chronic illness. Is that even harder to wrap your head around? 48% of your tax dollars go towards treating chronic illness. 90% of your insurance dollars go towards treating chronic illness. You can look this stuff up. Go to the CDC's website. Don't take my word for it.
So we're saying our tax dollars go for paying for someone's poor lifestyle choices.
Yes. Yep. So that's 90% of insurance spending. This is 10% for those 4 things. This contributes to 80% of deaths in the United States. These 4 buckets, 20% of deaths. So, is your membership fee to prevent that worth it? I would think so. Now, if we could get the 90% of the people that are in that bucket to get in here, you could see the tax revenue that could get spent somewhere else on something that's more productive, right? Getting people up, getting them moving, that's 20% of the battle. The other 80% is what you're putting in your mouth when you're not here. We're with you guys 1 hour a day. If you come to class. The other 23 hours a day, that's when you're prone to fall for the advertising, the marketing. What are you putting in your mouth those 23 hours a day? So how did we get into this mess? It was the traditional government food pyramid. So the 1970s, they came out with this thing, and if you've seen, I shared it on Instagram, I think. Emily Kaplan is the co-founder of Broken Science, and she had interviewed the guy that helped develop this food pyramid. It's the only time he's ever been interviewed on camera, and she just released it the day that they released the new guidelines that she helped them develop. They were telling you to eat 6 to 11 servings of grain a day, 3 to 5 servings of vegetables, and 2 to 4 servings of fruit. So that is 6, 9, 11. to 11 and 4 is 15, plus 5 is 20. 11 to 20 servings of carbohydrate a day, compared to 3 servings of protein and 3 servings of dairy. Anybody see why that could be a problem? If you're eating 20 servings of carbohydrate a day, your blood sugar is going like this the whole day. And you want it to look like this. It should be balanced. It shouldn't be on a roller coaster all day long. If you have a kid in school and they eat the school lunch, or the school breakfast and then the school lunch, that's what they're doing all day long. Then you want them to sit at a desk when they're 7 years old. Ain't gonna happen. Shouldn't happen. So that's how we got into the mess. How do we get out of it? Follow the new guidelines. That's what we've been preaching for 5 years, guys. Those of you that have been around, you know that. We've been telling you that this food pyramid shit that they had was that. It was garbage. No good. Not based on any science that can replicate. Might be a peer-reviewed article that somebody stamped their name on because they're getting funding from pharmaceutical, American Beverage Association, those things that are primarily profit-driven and don't give a shit about the individual person. They care about their bottom line and whether they're meeting that quarterly revenue or not. Because they're going to get sued if they don't. So the new guidelines, it's telling you to eat 0.73% of your body weight in protein, ideal body weight. Vegetables, it's saying 3 servings a day. Fruit, it's saying 2 servings a day. And then grain, it's saying 2 to 4 servings a day. And I'm going to tell you, get rid of the grain section. I think that's on there to not piss off the ag people. But I would tell you that if you're eating bread, I would try to limit that heavily. I'm not saying you can never eat it, but if you're eating it every day with every meal, stop doing it. Eat it once a day. Okay? The fix, again, I already said this, but you eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar, and you keep intake that will support exercise and not body fat, and then pair that with constantly varied functional movement executed at a relatively high intensity. And that means for your current ability level, you're just pushing yourself a little bit past where your comfort line is, or where you're comfortable. Every day you come in here, push you a little bit past your comfort zone. A little bit past your comfort zone. That's relative high intensity. It's not coming in here and working out until you're falling over, gasping for air every day. We might ask you guys to do that once or twice a week, right? We might ask you to lift heavy once a week, Megan. Right? We're not doing that every day. It's a balance. We have a method to the madness. The programming is written to balance those things so your nervous system gets a break. I heard somebody bitching about how CrossFit, you can't go there because your cortisol level. Well, the programming is written to balance that out so your nervous system gets a break. Okay? Our long cardio days, that's basically active recovery. We tell you 3 on, 1 off. Come in here 3 days, take a day off. Come in here 3 days, take a day off. That's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be coming in here 7 days a week and going as hard as you can every day. That is not the intent. Our intent is to keep you healthy as long as we can keep you healthy and avoid that chronic disease bucket as long as we can. Just a general guideline. If you don't know where to start with your food intake, okay, if you're going to go off the macros, which there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand what the hormones are doing on the back end, right? If I'm going to eat the carbohydrate, it might spike my blood sugar. If I'm going to eat a lot of carbohydrate, it's probably going to spike my blood sugar. And depending on what you eat and how many you eat will determine that. And it's going to be individualized. Okay? I said this on the podcast when I went over the food pyramid, or the new food guidelines the other day. If I eat one cookie, my blood sugar basically doesn't spike. If I eat 2 cookies, it spikes pretty good, and then it crashes. If I eat 6 of Jim's donuts, it's not good. And I have done that, and I've watched what that does. Okay? So general guidelines, if you don't know where to start. I'm going to take my ideal body weight, and then here's your formula. Take your protein, you're going to eat your ideal body weight in protein grams or more. Carbohydrate, take your body weight, multiply it in half. That's what you're going to set your carbs at. And then your fat, ideal body weight times 2. And then you're going to have to play with it and see what happens after that. Okay? But that's just a general guideline.
Brett, can you say that again?
Yes.
I struggle with understanding something. Wonderful. Can you say those 3 things again?
Yes. So ideal body weight, I'm going to eat that in grams of protein. I'm going to take my ideal body weight, divide it in half. That's going to be my carbohydrate intake. I'm going to take my ideal body weight and double it, and that would be my fat grams. Okay? That would not be your total calories. You would have to do some math there and multiply the fat and the protein by 4 and the carbohydrate by 9 and then add that together. If you need help with it, Jerry, just let me know and I'll help you. Okay? That's just a general guideline. This study that I went over last year at this event, it talks about low carb and ketogenic food pyramid. If you don't know what to eat, this is a great starting point. And it's telling you that basically just to stay healthy, you shouldn't have your carbohydrates over 130 grams. Okay? So, again, that's going to vary. If I'm going to go run a marathon, I might eat the extra carbs that week or that day. Okay? So I'm not telling you can never do that or you should never do that. There are instances where that might be beneficial. I'm just saying for the average American walking around, this is a great place to start, and don't eat more than 130 grams of carbohydrates. Okay? New food guidelines. If you haven't seen that, I would take a look at it. It's telling you what we've told you for 5 years. So if you need more evidence backing it up, they have studies published there. There's a 500-page PDF that goes along with this 10-pager that has a lot of data in it. And then this is a great graph showing the problem that we have and that we're in. This is the top employer in each state in 1990 versus 2024. So in 1990, manufacturing and retail were almost the main manufacturer in every state. 2024, guess what it is? In all but probably 10 states. Healthcare. Why? Anybody have an idea why? Where's all of our tax dollars going? And if everybody's sick, is it healthcare or is it sick care? This is healthcare. You're going to do healthcare in a minute. Sick care is when we go get treated for this stuff that we have choices over. So just some basic things that you can do. Go home today, look at every label on every food that you touch and see how much added sugar is in there. Look at the ingredient list. If you can't pronounce the ingredients, try not eating food. You're eating your product. Okay? If you're eating foods that start with protein X, protein cereal, protein waffle, just know that's a carbohydrate. Okay? It's not a protein. primarily carbohydrates. So clean out your kitchen. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store. When you go in there, that's typically where the Whole Foods are. Stay away from the inside aisles. That's where they put the stuff that they're trying to sell you on their advertisements. It's got a long shelf life, it's got lots of stuff in it. Keep it on there. Order online if you go into the store and you can't stick to what's on your list. If you're putting extra stuff in there, try to order it online. It helps you avoid some of that stuff. Eat before you go if you're going into the store. That's typically when you start adding extra stuff in there that you don't need. Buy your food in bulk and then plan and prep your meals out. That will save you money in the long run. You're going to spend more money up front, but price per meal goes down when you shop in bulk. Buy from local places. Yetter Farms, this would be used for our meat. We have a flyer up there. I think there might be some in the back. You can order online. They'll bring the meat to your house. They have beef and chicken. Try to sleep 8 hours a night. If you have a consistent bedtime and wake time, that's going to be ideal. Now you can kind of get your circadian rhythm set to those wake times and bedtimes. You start noticing that you wake up before your alarm goes off. Go outside. That helps with circadian rhythm. Helps with melatonin. So if you have issues with sleep, morning sunlight, evening sunlight, that kind of helps your body start signaling correctly. Eat low glycemic index foods. So basically stuff that's not going to spike your blood sugar. The more foods that you pair together that spike your blood sugar, the worse it is. So that's called the glycemic load of your meal. You can look that up, calculate it. Or if you just eat whole foods and stick to meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit will start no sugar. Typically that's all low glycemic. And then control your hormones. Prioritize your protein, fat, limit carbohydrate. I've talked for 32 minutes without stopping, 33 now. Anybody have any questions for me? Any questions on anything that we went over? Okay. If you need to use the restroom, use the restroom. We will start warming up for this workout in about